Hi guys, my name's Alethea. Oh, let's make this straight. Is that better? Honestly, I don't even know. Whatever. Hi guys, my name's Alethea. This is Got You Covered. Today I'm going to be covering 4 reasons to not follow trends. I know, coming from me, Fashion Channel. 4 reasons to not follow trends that just make sense. If you haven't seen last week's video, please watch it. That is the one where I talk about 4 reasons to follow trends. And I go over some reasons to follow trends because there's so many times when I hear people say like, oh, like following trends is shallow or it doesn't really make any sense or whatever the reason is. And I'm probably gonna list some of the reasons that you have in your head why you shouldn't follow trends today. But just to be fair and actually have a well-rounded argument, I wanted to show both sides of the argument. So that way you can kind of come up with your own conclusion and maybe you'll learn some new things about the other side that you didn't really know before. Now, some of these reasons are gonna be things that I came up with when I was younger because when I was younger, I just wasn't allowed to follow trends. And when you're a teenager, that's actually kind of a big deal, just not being able to fit in with your peers. So some of these might just have been my brain rationalizing the situation that I was in. But they are actual valid reasons. And I understand not everyone's gonna be into fashion. Even though I personally am into fashion, all of these reasons are things that I think about a lot. And sometimes it makes me have like a existential crisis because I wonder if what I'm doing with my life is actually a good thing and if I should be majoring in fashion at all. So keep in mind, these are things that keep me up at night. Reason number 1, and this one is not gonna be a shocker to literally anyone, most trends don't last. Sometimes something will come along that seems like just a fad but ends up just being a staple in our wardrobe. Just think like skinny jeans, for example. I remember everyone was making fun of it when they first came out, but now pretty much every store sells skinny jeans. So not all trends are gonna go away, but I think there really just is like a truth to the fact that if you're constantly trying to keep up with trends, and I mean like making it an obsession of your life, it gets to this point where something that you only bought a year ago, which I realize in fashion terms, well, a long time ago, it is not that long ago. The garment is still perfectly wearable, but it starts to feel like a literal dinosaur. You're like, what am I doing with this? This is ancient news. No one's into this anymore. Now I have to buy the next thing. If you're constantly just chasing trends, I think something that I've noticed in my own life is I'm just way less happy with the clothes that I do have because there's always that like new shiny thing that I want to have because trends are just shoved in our face constantly. It's just the reality of it. Reason number 2 is that it is expensive, like extremely expensive to just try to keep up with trends all the time. I did try that for a very long time, and at one point I had a pretty good job, was making the most money I've ever made in my life, and I spent all of my money on clothes, like all of my money on clothes. I mean, besides like rent and food. The rest of it went to clothes because I love clothes. I think clothes are great. But I definitely have not seen a return on my investment at all. If you are gonna follow trends, no matter what I say in this video, girl, me too. I've tried out a couple of rental services and you should check out those videos because I just break down the pros and cons to a few of them and you might end up liking renting the more trendier pieces instead of having to commit to buying them. That being said, I think there's something to be acknowledged here that the fashion industry itself is probably never gonna take the time to acknowledge. And that goes beyond it just being expensive. The reality is, we don't need that much clothing. We just don't. But we have a lot of clothing, especially here in the West. And the reason is because there's constantly new trends that are coming out, so you're constantly feeling obligated to buy the new next shiny thing. And as much as I'm like prone to that trap as anybody else, one thing to really keep in mind is that the fashion industry is that it's an industry. As much as I want to say it's only art, it's only self-expression, it's only whatever I want to say about fashion, at the end of the day, someone's trying to get your money. And I hate to say that, but that's just like what it is. Just keep in mind that they have the goods and you have the money. And at some point, they're trying to convince you that their clothing is worth more than your money. And you will gladly hand them your hard-earned cash. And because of that, I think we've seen this like revival of like every 8 weeks, there's a new trend. That's because every single 8 weeks they have a new sales quota that they're trying to meet. So they are working extremely hard to make sure that whatever clothing you already own, you feel like it's not good enough and you need to get rid of it and buy new things. Something that I learned in my marketing class was that there's a few ways that they can try to sell you something. Either they try to sell something for exactly who you are, and that is like very practical needs. Another way that they'll try to sell you something is they'll try to sell you something for the person that you think you are. If I think that I'm a very sophisticated lady, I don't, but if I did think that, then I'd probably want to buy more expensive designer brand stuff. And then the last one is they try to sell it to who you want to be. So if you want to be very rich and famous, then you'll probably want to buy the clothes that rich and famous people wear, even though there's no correlation there. The third reason why you shouldn't follow trends is it keeps you from knowing yourself. In the words of Oscar Wilde, be yourself, everyone else is taken. When it comes to clothing, I think there's kind of this like, I don't want to say cult mentality because I think I'm using the word cult too loosely, but you kind of get what I'm saying. It's almost like there's this new thing and everybody has to have it, but at the end of the day, whether you're following trends or you're choosing to not follow trends, do it because you actually want to. That's something that I'm always gonna advocate for on my channel, even when I'm reviewing trends for this season. I never want you to follow something because you're supposed to follow it or you're feeling obligated to follow some sort of trend. I wanna show you all the modest options because I want you to actually feel like now I have choices here and I can choose whichever one I happen to like the best without feeling obligated to follow one or any of them. Something that I mentioned in my last video, I actually feel like applies to both of these videos. So if you haven't seen my first one, go watch that first and then come back and finish this video. But that is, your clothing is basically a nonverbal introduction to yourself to other people. The little details that you get to put into your clothing that just show who you are is a great way to just break the ice with people that you don't know and have them know exactly who you are a little bit better. And I think blindly following trends is pretty much the fastest way for you to stifle your own voice instead of figuring out, what do I actually like? What do I actually love? What makes me really happy in the clothes that I'm wearing? Like, what do I get excited about to wear in the morning? If you're only focusing on trends, you're never gonna get to figure that out, and it's pretty fun figuring that out. One of my favorite feelings is finding something that I know I'm gonna wear for a very long time because I just love it that much, and it doesn't matter if it's in fashion or not. I feel really cute in it, so I'm gonna keep wearing it. Okay, last but definitely not least, reason number 4 is the environment is suffering, and I mean actually suffering. This is probably what keeps me up at night more than anything else. Everything else is not that big of a deal. If you want to waste your money on trends, who cares? Honestly, if you just never want to figure out what your own style is, whatever, that's a lot of work anyways. I just like cannot get around this one. The fashion industry is one of the biggest industries in the world, and it is one of the biggest polluters in the world. I've made other videos on this before, and honestly, sometimes this literally makes me question what I want to do with my life. If you haven't seen the documentary The True Cost, please watch it because it's incredible and it really breaks down like how the fashion industry is polluting certain things and how you can help. But when I watched it for the first time, I literally cried, and I kind of thought I probably shouldn't pursue modest fashion, and I think that really held me back for years, honestly. I've been wanting to do this channel and make a modest clothing line someday since I was 14. The fact is that I just don't want to hurt people or our planet in the process. I kind of came to a point where I was like, okay, I could just pull out completely and give up because there are so many harmful parts of this industry, or I could come at it with a lens of restoration. I think it's really important for people who actually care about something to be the ones to champion change. Since I actually care about clothing and beauty and making people feel comfortable in their own skin, in their own standards, I thought I should keep trying this. As beautiful as a piece of clothing is, if I know someone was harmed in the process, it feels like dirty to me. Like I'm not supposed to be even like touching it. Like if someone was harmed in the process of me having it, I don't want anything to do with it. And I think just blindly following trends, I've been saying that a lot. I actually feel like that's being too harsh. I think people are manipulated into following trends because it's held up as like the golden standard for what cool, pretty people do. But that doesn't have to be the case. I wish people felt like they had more freedom to just wear whatever they wanted. But as it is right now, there's lots of pressures in the world, especially for women, about like certain ways that you're supposed to look and present yourself. And I feel that constantly, which is why I put as much effort into my clothing as I do, and why I even have this channel to share with other girls some of my tips and tricks about how to look put together and cute, you know? So where does that leave us? Just not following any trends? Well, I have a few videos on my channel that definitely say otherwise. I don't think you should have to throw following trends out the window if that is something that you genuinely enjoy. What I don't want is for people to be following my channel and just seeing me as another avenue of pressure for trying to fit in and be perfect all the time and look put together constantly. I just never want to be that voice, but I know a lot of us do care about fashion, and a lot of us care about modesty and looking put together and fashionable, and really love the fact that we get to introduce ourselves non-verbally to other people. So that's what my channel is for. If any of these reasons really resonated with you, I hope that this video was validating and makes you feel like you're not crazy for not wanting to follow trends. Believe me, you are not. Sometimes I don't feel like following trends, but I like it, and I always come back to it at the end of the day because I really love fashion. I think it's fun, it's engaging, it's dynamic, it's always changing. And even though that's such a double-edged sword, that's part of the reason why I kind of like it. If this video was helpful for you, go ahead and throw me a big thumbs up. And if you are new here, consider subscribing because I come out with fashion-related content every single week. I'll see you next time. Bye.